Guys! I just realized that Wordle makes a fantastic analogy for life and career choices and relationships and... I'm sorry, did you just say Wordle? Yeah, the viral new internet word guessing game. You're describing it as new. Well, okay, yeah, at the time of this recording, it is new. Look, today's Wordle was 267, and this video was like 6 weeks in the making. I cannot imagine this video will age well. Hello, welcome to Black, White, Gray, Yellow. I had a great conversation with a young man recently who told me an extremely relatable story. He's in community college now getting his associate's degree, and to some extent, he's being expected to know now what he wants to do for the rest of his life so that he can take the right classes and sign up for the right internships and extracurricular activities. And I've known many people who have been asked to make these apparently life-deciding decisions as early as high school or even middle school, just trying to get into the right schools. This young man is very smart and capable of doing probably anything he sets his mind to, and therein lies the problem. He's suffering from a paradox of choice because if he can do anything, then committing to doing any one thing feels like committing not to do so many other things that he's also interested in. And how is he supposed to know now which one thing is supposed to be his thing so that he can live up to all his potential? I personally relate so hard to this. I was one of those kids that had so much potential. Personally, I think most kids are. Yeah, now you're starting a YouTube channel. That is really sad. What are you, like 40? That is not. Well, I did start to resent the word potential when I was the most overeducated pizza delivery driver in the state. This was before I joined the army. On the bright side, I think I tested way more thoroughly than my parents ever anticipated their claim that I could do anything I set my mind to. But this paradox of choice is something that I've seen over and over for so many people, both in career choice and in relationships. How many people have you met who didn't want to fully commit to the relationship they're in because they don't want to invest too much in case this person isn't the one? But I'm very excited to tell you I have some great advice. Well, okay, I have hindsight based on my own experience, and I do think that a great way to explain it, very simply, is with an analogy to this fantastic new internet word game that just got bought by the New York Times called Wordle. Okay, for those who haven't played, Wordle is a simple game where you have 6 chances to guess a random 5-letter word. There are variants, of course, but that was the original. After each guess, you get feedback about each letter in the word that you guessed, whether the letter is in the word in the right spot, whether it's in the word but not in the right spot, or if it's not in the word at all. This helps guide you to the right word. That's it. That's the whole game. Diana, how does making me feel self-conscious about my limited grasp of my only language relate to my life choices and relationships? Actually, I might have just answered my own question. Okay, so this young man I talked to is in community college, getting his associates, and he's basically staring at a completely blank Wordle board and a keyboard full of possibilities. He feels paralyzed because any word could be the right word and he wants to get it right on his first try. But the problem is, just like at the beginning of a Wordle game, he has too many options and not enough information about any of them. So, just like in the Wordle game, the first step is often just a stab in the dark. Now, it can be an educated stab in the dark. For example, in Wordle, you may want to start with a word that has a lot of vowels in it, such as agile, or a lot of the common consonants, such as trash. This is akin to saying something like, well, I like storms, maybe I'll study meteorology. It's worth a shot. Take some classes, see how you like it. In Wordle, as in life, there are some people who just get lucky. Sometimes the first or second word they guess just happens to be it. And I bet you know people who have known since they were in elementary school exactly what they wanted to do with the rest of their life, and they've never looked back. You also hear stories about those couples that married their high school sweetheart, and 70 years later, they're still happily married. That's fantastic. Are you being sarcastic? No, really, that's fantastic. But if that isn't you, that doesn't mean you did anything wrong. They just got lucky and you're normal. Let me say that again, because I think there's a lot of people who need to hear that. If you're not the person who figured out exactly what you wanted to do or who you wanted to be with very early on in life, it means you're normal. The point is you get feedback from that first guess. Maybe at least one of your letters was right, or even a few of them. Then you can use that to help get closer to the right word on your next guess. As it turns out, I actually really liked being a pizza delivery driver because I liked talking to lots of different people and making them happy. Of course, there are a lot more rewarding ways to be able to do that. Pizza delivery wasn't the right job for me. But now I also know that any job where I don't get to talk to lots of people isn't going to be the right job for me either. just as good. Maybe every single letter you guessed was wrong. That's still really good information. Personally, I dropped out of graduate school for meteorology because once I got there, the feedback I got was, to oversimplify it, this isn't for me. And that's okay. Likewise, if the only feedback you got from your first relationship was that it was a disaster and you're never doing that again, that's okay too. Going back to the Wordle analogy, at least now you know to avoid those letters. And if you made an educated guess with a lot of common letters, consonants, or vowels, and you still get that kind of feedback that none of those letters are right, that might mean that the right word has some more uncommon letters in it and might be more interesting. Words like zesty. Imagine striking out on your first try just to later realize it's because you're zesty. It's not a bad lot. If you haven't found your right partner or career path yet, it might be because you're destined for something more interesting than anything you've tried so far, like joining the army or starting a YouTube channel. There certainly are times when it seems like you have to have all the answers now, such as when you're choosing your college major. But even those decisions aren't as influential on the rest of your life as you might think. This is the advice I gave the young man. Use the information and resources available to you to make the best guess you can, and use the feedback you get. But if you really need something different later, there will be ways to get it then. I am not saying it's going to be easy, and you might have to be flexible. But ultimately, a lot of employers and schools are just looking for someone who is competent and interested in the job or program where they need to fill a vacancy, and having people with diverse backgrounds is usually good for them. This does not mean that you can go become a surgeon without going to medical school. But the medical school might be okay if your background is in, say, car mechanics. I mean, practically those are already the same thing. And of course, there's always going into business for yourself, which is also a difficult road, but one where having a varied background actually helps you out. So if you're like me and you end up having a very interesting, meandering, atypical journey through many different diverse experiences, you can actually use that to your benefit. In interviews, you'll have perspective on things that other people won't have, which might strengthen the business you're applying to. Trust me, I've been there. And now, finally, I'm actually doing pretty well, because we do have one advantage over this Wordle analogy. Unlike Wordle, we aren't limited to 6 chances in real life. Thank goodness. I'm a pretty typical millennial in that if you count everything, to date, I've had something like 22 jobs across 13 industries that have taken me across 7 cities in 4 states. I also had something like 13 long-term relationships before I met my husband, and his story is pretty similar. I learned a lot about what does and doesn't work for me in each of those experiences, and just like in a Wordle problem, they all helped me hone in on what was the best for me. I'm still using this technique to become a better partner, to get better at my day job, and even with this channel to slowly make better quality videos. So yeah, I guess if I had to do it all over again, I'd still take about 95% of my detours. Something about the journey versus the destination. Has anyone ever told you that you're kind of sappy? It's kind of cute. I can summarize this idea with some advice that I got from my dad when I was younger, which he got from a mentor of his when he was younger. If you don't know what to do, do something. And learn from your mistakes. Hey, this goes back to exploring all your maze possibilities like in my last episode. That's it for this episode. If you like this video, please give it a like, and if you like this channel, please subscribe. If you know someone who's struggling with indecision, use this idea to help start a conversation. Share this video if it helps. Tell me in the comments what you've done when struggling with indecision, or tell me what iteration of your journey you're on now. As always, please keep the comments positive and constructive, and I'll do my best to respond. Thanks everyone. Until next time, my name is Diana, and this has been Black, White, Gray, Yellow.